Hello. Okay. Oh, and look at the crowd. Fantastic. All right, so are we back live? Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody to the public session. We just came out of executive session, and there are votes that we are going to take based on the discussion we had in executive session. And Trustee Brooke is going to read them, and we will then take our roll call.
So the first is, right, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees has voted to discharge Acting Counsel Brian Nugent from representation of named parties, the Village of Tuxedo Park and Elizabeth Doherty, Village Clerk and Chief Village Election Officer in the matter of Guccione versus the Village of Tuxedo Park et al. That's the first motion.
Second,
Second.
any discussion?
Discussion.
Yes, please.
Unfortunately, I don't have enough information. This was just discussed in executive session. Some other board members had a heads up on this. So I don't think I have enough time to make a decision. That's all I have to say.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, this is new also to me, but I do see the long-term benefit of hiring a specialist
Mm-hmm.
for the village.
Paul, do you have any comments?
No,
I'm fine as well. Okay, so may I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
I
Aye.
I'm abstaining.
abstain.
Okay, 4 ayes and 1 abstention with Trustee Casker. Okay, let's move on to the second.
Second is approval of budget retention of independent counsel pending the election litigation. Be resolved, the Board of Trustees approve the allocation of $25,000 for retention of independent counsel Michael Berger of Santiago Berger in collaboration with the law office of Joseph Burns, representing main parties, Village of Tuxedo Park, Elizabeth Doherty, Village Clerk, and the pending matter of Guccione versus Village. And a second,
You want to finish reading that?
I did.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
You
free
did. Okay.
Village.
Thank you, Paul. May I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
I just want to say I don't know Michael Berger or Santiago Berger, so I won't be able to vote on this, or Burns.
Abstain.
Any other comments? Or questions about the retainer? No. Okay.
Oh, that's, is that like the down payment or whatever? And then there's.
Well, the way they
Or is
described
it
it,
that?
the way they described it to us was,
Oh.
you know, we did discuss this, and this is how he described how his firm would like to do it.
So, yeah, it's pretty typical for lawyers to take a retainer, and then to the extent that they don't use that full amount, they will refund the village. If they go over, then there'll be additional expenses in the future. It really just depends on the intensity of the workload, which is not knowable. But this is pretty standard for lawyers to ask for retainer payments up front.
And I would also add that it could go over.
Correct.
Any indication?
Okay, all right. So,
Sorry,
may I have-
did they give you an indication? what they
No.
thought?
They don't know because they don't know how what's going to be involved.
Right.
At this point.
all right, we had our debate. Let's take the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Aye.
Okay, 4 and 1 abstain. Okay, Paul, would you like to move on to the last one?
Approval of designation of primary point of contact for pending election litigation. Be resolved that the Board of Trustees has agreed that the office of the mayor will act as primary point of contact for all matters associated with and strategic decisions on behalf of the Village of Tuxedo Park and Elizabeth Doherty in her capacity as village clerk and chief village election official on behalf of the Village of Tuxedo Park in regard to pending litigation entitled The Matter of Guccione versus the Village of Tuxedo Park et al., Supreme Court, Orange County. It is agreed that the office of the mayor may in its discretion call upon the Board of Trustees to assist in evaluating strategic options proposed by independent counsel.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Can we add to this a commitment that the mayor will communicate all phone conversations and communications to the entire board?
There may be a situation where I don't want to do that. I want to reserve my my privilege not to do that, but I think this is pretty clear that when it's necessary, I'll come to the trustees. Do you agree, Paul?
There may be issues with respect to prospective actions, which we may not want to broadcast going forward. And there,
To a trustee
right?
Correct.
who's
There may-
voting to pay for this lawyer?
There are issues where the formulation of a strategy may require confidence unless we could be assured there will be no dissemination of the information. And we may have counsel address us as a board.
And there's information that I would like to maintain attorney-client privilege on, not subject to FOIL. And I don't.
This is for decisions on behalf of the Village of Tuxedo Park and Elizabeth Doherty. How would you have attorney-client privilege over the rest of the board?
Because that's the case that we're working. That has happened. I've already had it happen.
I made my point. We don't need to.
Is it?
Okay,
No,
right.
but I'm confused. I was going to ask Brian.
You're no
is
longer
that-
mayor
is that
July
you?
1st,
Is
so
that
your
you?
powers end July
Excuse me.
1st.
Claudia, you're not,
All right,
you're not public comment.
Is that interim, like in a board of trustees thing, or?
Very honestly, I don't feel comfortable giving advice now on a matter that I was just removed from a brother council because there may not be legal objections.
So what I'll do is I'll mention this and the concerns of some of the board members to the new council. And if we want to go back and change that, Chris, we'd be happy to present it.
Yeah, I'm a little uncomfortable on that. too.
Okay, so would we agree that what I will do is I will go to the new attorneys and ask them to take a look at what we passed? And if they feel that it should be changed, we'll all talk to them. They feel it should be changed.
Yeah, I would like to have them briefing the board.
They should brief the board. You know, we are not experts on election law and procedure. So this is why we went with these people.
Okay,
All right, so let's go with that.
so let's go to.
So may I have a second?
I think we already did.
Second.
Did we? And that we're on discussion. We're done with discussion? Okay, we'll take the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Do I hear back from them?
Not a problem. Okay, terrific.
what's the vote, Mayor?
3-4, 2 abstentions.
Josh Sher is voting.
He just did. He just did.
And,
And he's listed on the agenda as to where he is.
I'm allowed to vote later.
Yes, he is.
okay, can we not have a back and forth with the audience? Can I make a motion that
Sorry.
that we schedule a special meeting of the board to be briefed by this new legal counsel within the next 10 days?
Great idea.
And then that way they can tell us if there's ever will be an occasion for attorney-client privilege between the mayor only.
So Chris,
I'll
I'm
be
sorry,
here.
you said within what period?
Next
of
10
time?
days, but I hopefully.
I think it needs to be sooner, candidly.
As soon as possible. I just, I like to have an ending.
I accept within 10 days. They should
Sure.
start earlier, but they also might want to get up to speed on the issues.
Mhm.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, Josh, I'm 100%, 2 days would be great if we could notice it that. Well, it's legal, so we don't have to notice it.
Mhm.
Okay, special meeting.
Okay, yeah, no, I'm all for that.
So is there a second?
Oh, second.
I'll second it.
Okay.
All right, and I'll call the roll. Is there any other debate?
No, all in favor?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks,
thank-
Chris.
Okay, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees open the public hearing on draft local law 1, boat and dock length, not including permanent docks. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Okay. Public discussion from the
So
people in the,
You vote on that last one? I'm so
I
sorry.
did, yes,
So it's 5 aye.
right.
Okay, thank you.
We'll start with folks in the room. If they have any comments or questions about the draft boat dock and length law, I will tell you that we don't plan on taking a boat. The trustees and the board have not agreed on a local draft law yet that we feel comfortable presenting to the public. And when we do, we want to bring this back onto the table. I think it's worth having this discussion. There's many sides to this discussion, and as you have heard over the past 6-8 weeks, there's a interest in the trustees discussing this matter. So I want to couch that before you present your comments, but I'd like to open the floor to comments. Anyone in this room have a comment
I have a comment, Mayor.
on this subject?
Trustees. I think you should think twice before changing anything about the lake. We have problems with the lake, quality of water, milfoil, increasing boat size, increasing dock size is really for the benefit of a few to the detriment of the many. Mayor, also you promised residents that you would issue a survey, and that's another promise broken to the residents. You have as yet not issued such survey. Where is the survey? Listen to your people.
So, as I mentioned, this is on indefinite hold. So we'll keep our commitments, but thank you. Anyone else in the room? Okay, anyone on Zoom would like to make a comment or question about the local law that we are going to pull from the agenda until we have a mutually agreed upon law to present to the public in draft form?
Yes, I do.
And who's I?
Jim Hayes.
Hi, Jim.
Yes. I think that I would, again, I think the survey is very, very important. I think the discussion by the board will be greatly informed after the survey has been transmitted and reviewed by the board. I would like to add that since this subject has come up, and it's healthy to have a discussion of it, but there's been a lot of discussion in the community also about the power of boats and the speed of boats on the lake. Because of the new technologies, there are now boats, electric boats that can go a lot faster than was the case before when the old law was put into effect. So I would suggest that that be included in the new law, or let's put it this way. Let's say be included in the survey, whether or not individuals in the park would like to see some limitation on the horsepower or speed of boats on the lake.
Yeah, and I agree with you. The club, Tuxedo Club, has several new engines that they've actually had to governor down to slow them down because of weight and noise. I don't know if it's noise, but I 100% agree. In my responses to this question to TPFYI, I made it clear that that would be an issue. I agree with you. I appreciate you bringing it up. So when we do bring this back on the table, that certainly will be a question, and it sounds like a good question for the survey as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Chu Yen?
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor. I don't think my brother-in-law is attending the meeting, and I have a observation on his behalf, which is relevant to the your further consideration about a draft law on docks and boats and so on, but also possibly requires the villagers' immediate attention. He and his wife are keen kayakers, and they've noticed in the last week or so there are what they call a lot of white slime floating on the water. And then their paddle, when it goes into the water, brings up a lot of what they call seaweed. But I don't know, because I wasn't with them. I don't know whether they were bringing up dead milfoil or live milfoil, or what the white slime is. So maybe that's something that they should look into as soon as possible. And this happened within the last 10 days. And so if I may finish, is that if I think the science of the lake is not perfect. We really don't understand how to sort of make our water really truly healthy and so on and so forth. So my point is, maybe we should really get a firm handle on the milfoil and the algae and other lake-related problems before we introduce a new factor. In other words, bigger docks, bigger boats, bigger engine, which could, I'm not saying that would, which could exacerbate the lake problem, which, you know, basically cost the village a lot of money to try to remediate. The lake is a common resource. It's not, it's in a very critical one. It's not
Right.
just a pleasure pond for the boat owners, or for that matter, the owners, the property owners around the lake. So that's all I want to say, but please look into that white slime. And
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. Let me just
Mayor.
give you, Josh, I'll take the
Come-
first stab at it. You're welcome to fill in because
problem.
you're on the committee and you know the details. AJ, who was our former lakes manager, switched firms. Tonight, we're going to confirm a rehiring of him at his new firm. And Jim and trustee Share will be giving you details in a moment, but we agree. AJ's coming down soon to vet. We're reserving all the rights to do the algae treatments. We're waiting for those permits. And with that, I'll turn it over to trustee Share.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, Chuyan, obviously, what you just mentioned is a concern. I will say, and I've mentioned this before, when we did the survey, or AJ or NEAR did the survey in November, all milfoil had been eradicated, but I think there's a recognition that, you know, it can come back. But as the mayor said, hopefully we'll be approving AJ's new firm tonight, GEI Consulting, and his expectation is that he'll be in the park on Thursday and Friday of this week to look at the lakes. So hopefully we can get to the bottom of this very quickly.
good. Thank you.
Jim, did you care to make a comment on that as the lakes chair?
Yes, I'll only say this. I haven't observed what Chuyan talked about, but there is an issue, and it's a little speculation on my part, but I think it's probably true. And that is, if the milfoil is eliminated, that is a species which is absorbing the phosphate. That means there's phosphate left over if there's no milfoil for other plants. So it's likely, if the milfoil is gone, that other plants, maybe natives, will become much more plentiful than they were before. Algae blooms might also be more so. So I think that's, the phosphate will be used by something. And if the milfoil is not there, something else is going to use it.
Yeah, in fact, people have noticed on Pond 3, for example, that there's a lot of aquatic plant growth, and thought it might be milfoil. There's also a piece of that happening in front of Regna and Mangle again, but it's not actually milfoil. It's a weed that is now able to grow because the milfoil is no longer there. So with that, is there anyone else that has a question on the lake or the boat?
Yes,
matter?
yes,
Hi, how are you, Alan?
pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
It's I excuse me. I really certainly agree with what Josh said and Jim and Chuyan. I'm not clear. Is the Lake Committee going to be involved in a study with the committee of the trustees?
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, because I really think it's very important. This is an issue that done wrong has a potential for creating damage to our environment, damage to the aesthetics, damage to the value of the park. So I really think that the Lake Committee ought to be involved in it.
Yeah, thank you. No, I think we're all looking forward to a constructive debate on the matter.
Yep, I'm sure you'll get it.
I'm sure we will. No, people have been very, very good. There are people that have a contrasting opinion, but they haven't,
Yep.
the only one in writing so far. But yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's worth having, and we'll have that.
Good.
Okay. Anyone else on the local law matter? Okay, we'll move on from that. Thank you. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees close the public hearing on draft local law 1, boat and dock length, not permanent docks. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Discussion?
Well, yeah, go ahead.
You're closing it, but we don't have a draft yet. that we
Correct, we
like,
don't-
So.
That's right. That's why I'm not rescheduling another.
Okay.
Yeah,
until
I
the-
think it's a good opportunity for the board to get together
Okay.
and work out some of the differences between the board members themselves. And then when we have something we're all comfortable with, showing the public, we will. And then at that time, we can call for a public hearing. And that's what I meant. I'm sorry to jump ahead. Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Josh?
Aye.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, we are on reports. I see that we have John Ledwith here and not Jeff. So why don't we start with John? And we also have the chief. So John, would you like to go first?
Sure. Just to let you know, Jeff Boss is monitoring the water and sewer plant for the recent storm, and he said he couldn't be here tonight. So, but he is down.
Do you want to touch briefly on the incident, the tree incident that occurred yesterday?
Yes. Early yesterday afternoon, I was advised, actually Saturday, I was advised that a tree had fallen on Westlake Stable Road. It's the second tree that had fallen onto Jedediah Turner's home. So we had previously been in touch with Michael Ryan. He is agreeing to remove some trees. We're questioning if those trees are the only trees that should be removed. I was advised late this afternoon that a tree removal company will be on site tomorrow to remove the trees they have outlined so far. We'll be following up with them regarding other trees they might remove. I've also been in touch with Orange and Rockland, and they're also going to assess that entire length of Westlake Stable Road, as there are a number of tall trees that are above the wires, and some of them actually canting out over the wires.
Yeah, this is a very difficult situation. This property across from the Turners does have a lot of dead trees. But in addition to that, in rains like this, I'm very concerned because it's a very steep slope. And I'm hoping the arborist can look at the root structure. We all know that in storms like this, perfectly healthy trees fall over. I think in the future, I'm going to bring this to the attention of certain stakeholders. And maybe we can start to develop a plan on these potentially dangerous situations. All right, thank you, John. Would you like to proceed?
Yes. In summary, we had 3 certificate of occupancy requests submitted to the last trustee meeting. We have approximately 4 court matters before the village. Some of them new, some of them are longstanding. Just briefly, the Young property on 44 Tower Hill Loop. He was caught topping some trees about a month ago. He also has an outstanding stop work order that he's never addressed. So he's going to be in court the 3rd week of July to address those issues. Genesis Real Estate Partners is ongoing. Evans Freak 91 Lookout Road, we notified them back on June 1st that they had some trees they had to remove, and there's been no action at all taken. So I'm sending them a court appearance ticket for July 20th. If they act, we'll dismiss the court action. But that property has had a number of trees that have been fallen around the property and have not been cleaned up. Jazz on Pine, 12 Pine Hill Road, they were issued a ticket for not mowing their lawn. Their lawn was excessively high, but they did take care of the lawn before the court hearing, so we advised the court that matter was resolved. And 456 Westlake Road, Mark Hatzis, I was asked by the court to give them a letter indicating that the violations have been resolved. There were several years there were violations on that property when it was owned by the bank that were not resolved. Fortunately, they were resolved before the current owner purchased the property back in April of 2022. The court just wanted something for their file to close out the matter. All the projects that we've issued permits for appear to be going well. The Pays project, Rifkin, Klein, Ramos, Garrity, DeHadu, Wolf, Palazola, and Ginchard all appear to be moving along pretty quickly. So that's good news. I did get estimates for the village board regarding reconstruction of the wall on Continental Road across from the Groskin property. I met with 4 contractors there, and I did provide pricing and a report, I think, to the board a couple weeks ago. We had a meeting with the communications committee regarding possible cell tower locations. A lot of things up in the air and forthcoming there. The Weewa Road sewer line, the landscaping issues on the Hennessy property were resolved about a month ago now. There was some minor settling and things that were still denuded earlier this spring. So the company that did the work came back and they regraded the area, added some seed and added some straw. I think we're in good shape there. Climate Smart Community researched and provided Jim Hayes with electric usage for DPW for 2018. Jim did a comprehensive analysis between 2018 and 2022, which will be in his report, which will be upcoming. Working with Orange and Rockland and Verizon, getting some wires removed and repaired. Let's see. Also been in touch with Albert Lee from Verizon about some outstanding poles and wire issues that need to get resolved. Jeff Voss and I attended the New York State DEC drinking water source protection program about 2 weeks ago. I'll provide a brief report to the board later this week. And a couple other things, but all generally positive for the village.
Now, just for some background, we went first to our insurance company.
Yes.
On this wall, and they would not cover it, so that's why we went out to bid.
Correct.
Do you also want to discuss the bid you have for the irrigation system at the Weewa?
Sure. Starting with the wall, we reached out to 4 contractors, and the bids are as follows. HC Landscaping was $3,300. Tom DeUrcal was $3,500. SMB Total Home Care, $3,850. Develop HS, originally their bid was $18,828. I advised them that their bid was considerably higher than the others. They may want to reconsider. And they reconsidered and submitted a bid for $15,000. Still considerably higher than the 3 low bidders.
This is for the irrigation system.
No, this is for the wall. This is for the wall by the Groskins. It's approximately 30 feet, approximately 24 to 30 inches in height.
Do you have a recommendation for the board as to who we should choose?
Yeah, I'm familiar with the 3 low bidders, and I have no reason to believe that the lowest bidder is competent enough to restore the wall. It's HC Landscaping, $3,300.
I think they are competent.
They are. Yeah.
Okay, and we have that on the agenda to vote on that?
I think, is it on the new business?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, what I was wondering is if you want to discuss also the bids that you have for the irrigation system at the Weewa. I apologize for mixing them up.
Nope, not a problem. The irrigation system at the Weewa, we reached out to 3 companies. The bids are as follows. Knapp Irrigation, $13,000. Darren McCormick, $20,815. ProCut Landscaping submitted 2 bids, one using potable water and the other one using water from the lake. Potable water was $33,000 and using the lake water was $57,200.
Okay.
That of course would include a pump and
Right,
stuff.
so that, would that be a long-term solution
Well,
where they would have a pump doing the work?
I really didn't think it would be that much more money, so I asked them for it. And I also asked Knapp Irrigation and Darren McCormick if they would submit a bid.
So do you have a recommendation? To the board?
I'd like to look at the bids a little bit more because
Okay.
there's quite a disparity between the number of heads.
So we'll take it off the agenda for this evening and table it?
Table it till the next meeting.
Okay, very good.
In my comments, I wrote to the board that the equipment varies significantly, and I'd like to understand why before we
Right,
go
that's a good
anywhere.
idea.
Can I ask a question about that?
Sure.
So what do the heads look like and where are they going to be? Because this is a park where people will run and play and jump and heads are going to be broken. Or are they not? This is not what I'm thinking.
Well, no, the heads would be subsurface or at least slightly subsurface. I have a pamphlet on what one of the heads looks like. They know it's a park. They know people will be there. I'll ask more questions, but I believe they'll be slightly below the surface.
Okay. And if you could just inquire what their history is with grounds like this with a lot of wear and tear, and when it comes time to replace it, is that something DPW is going to do, or would we have to contact them?
I will find out.
They'll be providing the maintenance agreement. So I would assume we were going to go with that, but let's check that out, John.
Sure.
All right, and then finally, we have an emergency situation at the water plant. We have a ceiling that's on the verge of falling. And I think that we need to have that taken care of immediately. And that said, I think that we might be able to forego other bids. Brian, do you have any comment on that? It's an emergency. If this falls, it could cause a lot of damage. And I can certainly wait to get other bids, but if you think it's acceptable to use one bid, we will. John, how long do you think it'll take to get other bids?
I think within 2 weeks, I can get 2 more engineers.
Do you think we have the time to do that?
I think it looks a lot worse than it is,
Mhm.
based upon what the engineers were telling us initially.
Right.
This area that has been failing is actually twice as thick as the area next to it. So there is still some amount of substantial strength there. We're also not putting obviously anything new above or below this area.
Mhm.
So I think we have time to get some bids if you like.
Okay. That sits well with me. All
You
right.
can forego them if the board wants to. The general municipal law allows you to forego the bidding process if it's an emergency.
Right. Okay. Very much. Thank you, Brian. So I think from what you're saying, John, is it's not an emergency.
Correct.
Okay.
We should get back on track on the agenda
Yeah, let's do that.
because you're in new business.
Okay. So now we have the minutes. Well, I'm sorry, Chief, you have your report. Chief, you want to turn on your mic, give us your report?
Hey, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. So the month of May, we had 292 calls for service, 1 criminal case. We had 1 property damage incident. We issued 11 traffic tickets, 26 warnings to motorists. We had 7 fire calls, 2 intrusion alarms, 3 medical calls. We assisted the town of Tuxedo Police once, and we assisted other police agencies twice. We patrolled 2,546 miles.
People in the waiting room.
Lost you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Where did you lose me?
26.
26 warnings we issued. We responded to 7 fire calls, including automatic alarms. We responded to 3 medical calls. We assisted the town of Tuxedo Police once. We assisted 2 other police agencies, and we patrolled approximately 2,546 miles.
Terrific. Anything else to add?
Well, we definitely we've increased our speed enforcement. We've been receiving a few complaints of what appears to be speeding. So we've increased our enforcement, and we haven't been seeing much of a problem lately. I mean, I think everybody's behaving.
I noticed you had you had 2 patrolmen on duty recently to do a speed duty. Is that correct?
Yes, that's part of the uptick in the enforcement because, like I said, we received a couple complaints. So put an extra eye on, and they wrote a couple tickets, and speed it's being monitored every day, and they're enforcing. So
Terrific. Okay, thank you, Chief.
okay.
Did Jeff want us to read his report for him, John, or not?
He did not say anything.
Okay.
about it.
Any other reports? Jim, any other folks have a report? Okay, let's move on to the minutes. Any questions about the minutes?
I would just like to say something. I didn't actually finish the May 24th minutes. I was going to, so we're not going to be able to vote on them. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
let me cross that out.
And I think May 17th, you said you were?
Yeah, I wasn't here May 17th, so I'll just abstain.
So you'll abstain. Does anyone have any questions about the May 17th minutes?
Okay, do we have to pull them out of the consent agenda?
We can do that. Yeah, I'll do that.
So-
Yeah. Okay, so no questions about that? Okay, let's move on to the public comment period. 2 minutes per person. Let's open it up first to the floor on agenda items. Then we'll move on to the people that are watching on Zoom. And if you don't mind, I apologize. I'm going to go use the men's facility. I will be right back. Thank you, but we can start. Thank you. Anyone in the audience?
I do, but I have to wait for you to come back from the restroom, Mayor. Take your time, though.
Interview.
Well, I think it's sort of hard to get everybody together. I think the meeting should be open to all who can attend.
All candidates.
Oh, I look at that. Since this
It's just for board appointments.
yeah, I read it.
Sorry.
No.
It's not, I think it's 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone in the audience?
I'd like to go, Mayor. I have two small items. Firstly, I just wanted to remind the current mayor that his term is over on June 30th. And so after June 30th, you might not be able to liaise with the Board of Trustees as you wish to do. And also, I'd like to remind the current mayor that the new council represents the village and not the mayor, and does not represent the mayor as a candidate. If the mayor wishes to have a council representing him as a candidate, then David McFadden has to hire counsel with his own funds and not with the village funds to represent him. And yes, it's about $25,000.
Yes, I'm perfectly aware of that. Thank you for pointing it out, thus.
Second, I was kind of a little upset that there's a very important meeting going on in the town of Tuxedo tonight. And I was a little upset that this newly scheduled village board meeting completely conflicts with the town board meeting. So would you like to tell us, Mayor, what's going on in town tonight and why you chose to have this meeting here this evening instead of the very important town meeting that we all should be at?
Sure. The situation arose where we canceled the meeting on June 21st because of people's exhaustion from the evening. So we organized a new meeting. People's schedules were considered, and we chose this evening. We have some very important business to do. However, I received a request from Jay Reingold and Michelle Lindsay to try and move it if we could. And we tried. I reached out to all the trustees to see if we could move it to 4:30. Unfortunately, we were unable to do that. I think several factors are in play here. Number one, it's a non-reoccurring factor. As far as I know, it's never happened in the past, and we don't foresee it happening again. Although it's not as good as being there in person, the Zoom technology that both municipalities have, we need to take advantage of it and embrace it. And so I know I'll be watching the meeting that took place this evening after I leave here. And I hope that everyone will do the same that's concerned. But I certainly regret that we had to have a conflict. It was not intentional, and I'm saddened that it has happened, but that's how it went down.
Do you plan to comment, to send comments? I mean, basically by having this meeting here, we precluded yourself as the representatives of the residents, and you precluded the other trustees from being at tonight's meeting where Tuxedo Farms and related are asking for some very important modifications to their special permit. What else could be more important than 12 or 1,600 or 1,800 homes affecting this village?
I don't know if there's going to be a vote or whatnot. So, I can't really answer that question, but I appreciate you bringing it up.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Okay, how about people on Zoom? Any questions for the comment period? Okay, let's move on. All right, now, Chris, you had an issue with the minutes for the 24th and the 17th?
No,
Me was the 24th.
I don't have any issues. I just wasn't here, so.
Okay, so we'll cross that out. Apologize, I'll put it on airplane mode. All right, so Chris, is there anything else you want to take out or any other trustees want to take out?
Oh, on the consent, just the approved hiring of MEO Ryan Burns. I actually know who Ryan is, no objections with him, but I also know somebody else who applied. And I just, if we can just take that out and talk about it after the fact, because I didn't know we were hiring anybody DPW too. So just to kind of.
Sure. So would you like to bring that out separately?
Yeah. Well, I don't want to disrupt anything more than my
Right.
question
We can
disrupts.
put
So
it-
however you want to.
It should be an executive session, actually.
Okay,
So I
we'll
don't
do
know how
that.
it-
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
And then you can see that I mentioned in executive session, discussion of hiring a new DPW employee. Sorry. Okay. All right, so we've got A, B, with approval of the minutes from May 17th. You'll abstain on that, so we need to bring that out.
Yeah.
We need to pull that out separately. So let's do that first. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees approve minutes from May 17th. May I have a second?
Oh, sorry, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Oh, I'm sorry. I'm abstaining. Sorry.
B.
Forgot.
Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees approve the special budget meeting minutes on May 24th. May I have a second?
No, those
No,
are
those
out.
are done
You're
yet.
not prepared for those?
Yeah.
And how about the final?
Yeah, that one's from the January 18th. I misrecorded your vote on one of them.
Okay, so would you like to explain that? And then we'll vote.
Like I said, I recorded it as an abstain, but you had actually voted aye. And it
Yeah.
had to do with the King.
Okay,
Duke.
does everyone know that? Did everyone notice that? That's what we're voting
I
on?
knew it was, it was changing the vote. Yeah.
Okay, so there was mistakenly, it said I abstained, but I actually voted yes.
Right.
Okay, so no problem at all. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees accept the revised minutes from January 18th, 2023. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, great. Now, Chief, do you have anything you want to say about the hiring, or should we just move forward? Okay, so,
Needs to be unmuted. There.
okay,
Okay.
Dave?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, so I'm requesting to hire another part-time police officer, Scott Vecchio.
Mm-hmm.
Pending, he's currently in the police academy right now. He'll be graduating soon. And,
Mhm.
Pending civil service approval and, all the other
Right,
requirements.
and I assume he'll be part-time? Do
Yeah, I'm sorry, part-time officer, yes.
you have any particular shifts he's going to be covering?
The weekends.
Great. Okay. Now, the remaining items are approval to pay 4Lane. That's the consultant that is doing the QuickBooks training. And so you have remaining adding the written records and permanent record, written reports and permanent records. We voted on the minutes, approving the hire of the officer and paying 4Lane. Any questions on those items? Okay, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees approve the following items on the consent agenda. A, C, and E. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
All right, new business. A discussion regarding the annexation of Bruno property from the town to the village. Would you like to chime in on that, Brian?
Yeah, this should have been a resolution and adoption of a local law, not a discussion, but we had sent the,
Okay, do we have that?
Yes.
yeah, there's no public hearing on it under the.
Okay, let's do that then.
So we should have the resolution.
Terrific.
What's different about this
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 is just
law than the
final.
resolution we did in April?
Because that was an order and binding, but then
Okay.
the municipal law, usually this step happens after an election when it goes on a ballot, but because they're the sole owners of the property, the law says you don't have to have the election. Doesn't really say whether or not you still have to do the local law, so this is just to make it final.
Thank
For
you.
purposes of filing and effectiveness, when it gets filed with Secretary of State, this would be just the final step in the annexation process.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, there's no new material in this, let's put it that way.
The name of this resolution is Resolution for the Adoption of Local Law Number 2 of 2023, approving annexation of 2 parcels of land from the town to the village. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Section 1, the village board hereby adopts a local law number 2 of 2023 entitled "A Local Law Officially Annexing into the Village of Tuxedo Park certain parcels of property previously located in the town of Tuxedo and identified on the town tax maps as Section 208, Block 1, Lot 25, formerly SBL 8125, and Section 209, Block 1, Lot 26, formerly SBL 9126, Section 2. The territory shall be incorporated into the village of Tuxedo Park and become subject to all applicable laws, ordinances, and regulations of the village, and the owners of the annexed parcels of land shall be responsible for paying all necessary fees, assessments, and taxes associated with the annexation. Section 3. The mayor and any officer, employee, or consultant as directed by the mayor is hereby authorized to take any and all actions necessary to carry out the provisions of this resolution, including but not limited to evaluating any necessary adjustments in zoning or land use regulations and the village zoning and official map to reflect in the annexation of the territory. Section 4. The annexation of the territory shall be consistent with the resolution order and finding adopted by the village board on April 19th, 2023. Section 5. The village clerk is hereby directed to enter said local law into the minutes of this meeting and in the local law book of the village of the Tuxedo Park, and to give due notice of the adoption of said local law by filing the local law in the office of the Secretary of State in the state of New York. Section 6. This local law shall take effect immediately upon the filing of the New York State Secretary. New York Secretary of State. Section 7. This resolution shall be effective immediately. I will take the second. May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? I'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And Josh? Okay. Thank you. You're welcome. Okay. Now, we have, John, we've gone above the cost of the estimate for road repaving. We had allocated $200,000 this year, and we have exceeded that. The cost came in at $230,000, and that does not take into account the $20,000 that we normally keep within the $200,000 for pothole repair. So we're really looking at an increase of $50,000 when you add the 20.
Yeah.
Correct? So that includes Tuxedo Road, Serpentine Road, Westlake Road Part 2, and are there any others?
Yes, I did speak to Jeff last week about the concern about the very end of Laurelard Road where it intersects with Continental. Jeff feels that his estimate for Tuxedo Road is a little over, and we may have enough money in asphalt to do the last section of Laurelard Road, which has been a problem for water drainage and just the condition of the road in general.
Right.
So we may be able to get the last, quarter of Laurelard Road paved within this budget.
Okay, and then, all right, so we have a separate matter coming up about approving the cost for the Weewa Park. That's number C, 12 new business. So immediately after this. So where would we get that money from? Where do you anticipate we should take that from in the budget?
Unfortunately, I did not look at the budget today, and the budget is still young. We haven't really spent anything in the budget thus far.
All right, so
I
we don't
think
have to call it out tonight.
No, I think we should do it within the next 30 days.
Yes.
But we're still collecting tax money, and we have not overspent.
Right,
obviously, at this
so
point.
Elizabeth will resolve what line item it will come from, but I'll put it up for a vote. I'd like to increase the budget allocated to repave roads in Tuxedo Park, as well as to repair potholes from $200,000 to $250,000. May I have a second? Questions?
I think we should figure out where $50,000 is coming
Before
from
we-
first.
Yeah, before we, but I think,
Well,
I mean,
honestly, my understanding is this is not going to occur till the end of the summer. So if we can find it in the next 30 days, be well before we spend the money.
yeah,
Any other questions?
So we can wait to have this vote for the next meeting?
We're voting to approve the increase.
well, pending.
Well, I don't know if I want
Coming
to,
from.
I think I want to know where it's coming from first before I vote to spend
We'll
it.
have some idea, because it is a significant increase.
Well, I recommend that we approve it now because we are on a time frame with the state contract, or the Orange County contract. And as John said, he's not concerned that we'll be able to find the money. But I think that we can discuss where it's coming from within 30 days, and that'll cover the next meeting. And if you want to go back and change the resolution, we could do that. But John, is it accurate to say that we need to schedule this?
I believe Jeff has already tried to make arrangements, but Jeff wants to feel comfortable that he's doing the right thing. And the board is behind him. in
Do you
spending
feel
this
that
money.
we have time to wait till the next meeting?
I don't think we do for that, but, because we have to get the ball rolling.
Well, let's get the ball
So-
rolling.
But,
Approve that we will do it. And then if you feel next month that we don't have an adequate place to take the money, which I'm sure we do,
no, I
then we
think it'll
can
be before.
adjust the
that.
resolution.
No, We'll find out before that.
Yeah, you will.
I wouldn't wait a month.
I think we can approve it subject to a reallocation of expenses. that
Makes
covers
sense.
the
Right,
costs.
within,
Yeah.
you know.
That makes
10 days-
sense.
Within 10 days.
Within 10 days.
Yeah, I would
Fine.
not wait another month for that.
Okay,
So subject to that. And
okay. How do you feel about that, Chris?
I'm okay with that. So
And then I'll let
schedule a
everybody
special
know.
meeting 10 days from now.
Well, it's pending on I'll get the authority to approve based on an adequate line to take the money from.
We're changing the budget. The board has to vote on changing the budget.
Yeah, that's what we're doing right
Right,
now.
right, so the.
Yeah, so
We're
where the
changing-
50,000 is coming from has to be approved by the board. That's what I'm saying. That's what we're talking
That's
about,
what-
right?
We don't
10
have to
days.
have, we don't have to have the
Is that-
actual line item yet.
You don't have to approve line items if you're reallocating line items.
Right.
Right, we just
So
don't know where from.
we can just check with
We're not
Brian.
changing the
Right,
budget.
we're voting to reallocate money
Like-
for this
Like
purpose.
when I sent that email to everybody where we, for payroll and stuff, like where we.
I don't remember. Brian, if we're going to take $50,000 from one line and put it to another, do we have to have a vote on that?
You should have a resolution for the transfer, yes.
Yes.
But it might be coming from more than one.
Yeah,
line
you would
item.
normally
Yeah.
just break down, like if
But
it's
it's-
25, the, from
Right.
this line to that line, usually they're identified by budget line. So you would just authorize a transfer from A,
Right.
whatever, to, the other account number.
So a special
My motion
meeting.
was we approve it subject to an appropriate reallocation. So it's not approved until it's reallocated and approved by us. It doesn't require a separate meeting.
Well, the authorization of the funds is one thing. You're asking about, you need to transfer, yes, you need a resolution at some point to transfer funds. But that doesn't mean you can't authorize an amount
Right.
to be spent in relation to this,
Mhm.
but at some point,
And typically we do that, at the end of the meetings through
right?
budget transfers.
Yes,
And that's on every meeting. So that would be the appropriate time to do it.
that's correct.
Okay. All right. So be it resolved that the Board of Trustees approves an additional $50,000 of spending for road repair and pothole maintenance. May I have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
But why are we pending?
But-
The
but
resolution, we're
pending, yeah.
pending
Subject
Yeah.
to
to.
reallocate, finding the
Subject.
money.
Well, we're going to find the money.
I know, but I think you need is the
We're
approval.
subject
The
to
approval is
the
subject to
reallocation, but it's
the
approved.
reallocation.
First you say we authorize $250,000 to do this.
Yeah.
And then at another meeting, we say we're doing, authorizing a budget transfer of this to.
It's a budget transfer item.
My only concern here, I'm sorry to belaboring this. $50,000, what if we don't agree where to take $50,000 from? Maybe we agree that it's better to not pave as much road than wherever we think we're going to take $50,000
Right,
from.
so-
That's,
So Elizabeth will recommend where we take it from when we do budget transfers. And we
Right.
can approve or not approve the budget transfer she's proposing.
right, so, but
But as the treasurer, she will propose where we would get this $50,000.
And if,
And we will have an opportunity at that time to approve or not approve.
but what if we,
And if we don't approve, then the project won't go forward.
okay,
Well,
Right?
I think, well, also there is a little bit of a time crunch there, because if we approve it in a month or don't approve it in a month, it's too late. So, I mean, as far as the approval goes.
We don't know that.
Brian, do we
I
need-
asked John if we had that time. I recommend John talk to Jeff. And if we have to call a special meeting, we will.
That's my point. That
John, can I ask
if
a
we-
question? You said that Jeff said that we felt that we would be under, that's something we had over budgeted $50,000 for something.
Yes, Jeff,
And it was, I just say, and it was road paving?
it was road paving relative to the estimate we received for Tuxedo Road.
Okay, so, but it's still road paving.
Yes, it is.
This is road paving. So we don't really need to make a budget transfer then. We're just one.
We'll
thing.
see. We'll see. I understand everyone's point.
how much
So
is in the road paving?
I don't
budget
know
right now?
offhand, but when you're saying that one
There's 200
project,
There's 200,000 in the road paving, and we really need 250.
Okay,
Is it net? Yeah.
yeah, we need 30 for the initial payment for the roads. And then we're actually taking 20 out of the 200. We normally have 180. And we want to put that back in for maintenance of potholes. Now, it's up to you, you're the treasurer, to recommend where you think we should transfer that money from. And we will have a time to vote, as we always do on your transfers. And if the board feels that that's not an appropriate place to transfer from, we can vote against it, and that will kill the road paving
Or part of it.
or part of it. Everyone
I think
understand that?
maybe that's
Got
the
it.
That's good with
easiest,
everybody?
Yeah.
Okay,
going part
all
of
right.
it, yeah.
So did I call a second yet? Or did I call the second?
You did.
it was done.
Okay, before I take the roll, any other comments? Let's take the roll. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Okay, now, we allocated $20,000 for the WEWA and in the current 2023-24 budget. And we have an estimate for paving the parking lot and the road that goes around the lavatory and lifeguard building and lockers. And so I'm proposing that we take 18 of the 20,000 allocated and spend it on that project. Any questions about that?
What is it now? Stone, gravel?
Yeah.
Yeah,
What is it called?
it's
Chip and stone?
sand and dirt.
And we
Well, no,
wanna,
around the driveway is more than that. What is it around, I mean, around the toilet?
I was told 18. If there's a different number, sure, I'd love
No,
to
no,
know.
I'm just wondering what the material is.
Oh,
around-
asphalt.
I believe that the
Chip and
proposal was
stone.
asphalt.
Right, but what's there right now?
Right now, it's just compacted gravel.
Right. And that lasts how long?
Depends how much they plow it in the wintertime. When you plow gravel, it's obviously going to need some
Are
repair.
they gonna
It's also
plow in
very
the winter
dusty.
town?
I also don't know how much they're going to plow the
In the
park
wintertime.
area in the wintertime.
I don't
So
think so. So in this, where did like all the dirt come from and the seed and stuff like that for the lawn?
All donated.
That was donated?
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
we have a generous donation from the Maddens
Mm-hmm.
for $35,000. We haven't even hit that yet.
Okay.
So,
so I don't understand the wisdom of paving it.
okay,
Why are we adding impervious services to our beautiful nature of setting in Tuxedo Park?
Yeah, I just don't know if. that's-
well, before we do it,
Um,
we have to get planning board approval. Well, we have to present to the planning board. And we can take it up at that time. If we approve it, so it's not pointless to go to the meeting. And bring it up with them and take their input.
I'd rather go the other way.
I'm sure you would.
But
but
I think his point is, it's not a it's not a road that's used in winter.
Right.
So it's not a plowing issue.
right,
And, it may not be critical that we spend the 18.
That's
grand.
fine. Why don't we go to the planning board then and see what they think?
for the bar or planning,
No, planning board,
planning board.
right, John? Make sense?
I'm not convinced.
I think why it would go to the planning board. It's an
Uh,
aesthetic issue the bar normally would look at.
well, I think, in terms of drainage and runoff, we should go to the planning board. And then we can certainly go to the bar afterwards.
But do you, like, if you do the compacted gravel, I mean, do you?
Well, let's let them suggest alternatives. I like I agree that there's going to be runoff. We don't have any storm drainage systems there, so maybe it's not the best idea. But I'd like to hear some other suggestions. Make sense? All right, so tabled. All right, let's see. Annexation, paving of the roads, WeWa, facility approval, tuxedo. Okay, there's several private clubs that would like to, at some point in time, apply to the village board for temporary use of certain sections of the WeWa Park. For example, the Open Swim Club. There's a Beach Tuxedo Park Jeep Club that may want to display Jeeps. And so I would just like to pass a resolution that the board will consider hearing those as they come, when they come. Anybody have any questions about that?
Nope.
Okay. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees allow certain private clubs to use the WeWa Park and Beach facility with board approval. For example, the Tuxedo Park Jeep Club and the Open Water Swim Club. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I have a question. These are village clubs, right?
No, they're private clubs.
Private
With it,
clubs?
they have to be within the village, but they're not sanctioned by the government. They're private.
I have a cool question.
Sure.
Brian, when we do this, do they need to have licensing agreements to use the park for their?
You typically would have agreements with, if they're using it. Are they using exclusively or what?
Well, no.
Or just like one-off?
For example, the Jeep Club would like to be able to display their Jeeps in a row on the lawn for a couple hours and let people look at the Jeeps, open the hoods, that kind of thing. Create some interest in the Jeeps, what models and years, and not four-wheel around the park.
I mean, there's a couple of ways. Some municipalities kind of have a facility use agreement, something. Otherwise, how do you know who's using it when? So there's normally some process, whether you have a use agreement, a minor license agreement.
I think, requiring them to come before the board, if it was appropriate to do that, we would do it at that time.
You could do that as well. Approving it if you want to impose conditions or something.
Yeah.
That way.
I think that, let me just reread it then. Do you think, Brian, that they can apply with the board for board approval? And that will cover it. The board approval might include, you have to have a lease agreement or you have to have.
You can do a letter application.
I mean, what are we really approving? I mean, don't they already have the right to come and ask for board approval?
Well, yeah, but if we formalize it, I think it's probably a better idea.
Okay.
But that's just my idea. Brian, do you think it's worth doing it formally now? Or when they come, we're going to have to pass a resolution to do it anyway?
Well, the approval is the resolution. I mean, but the application, if you will, could be a letter or a request that
Mhm.
comes before the board, and then you approve it if you feel there's a condition that needs to be.
Right. So you're saying that we don't need to do a resolution now. We could just do it for that specific application.
Right, if somebody should be requesting your
Mhm.
permission to use.
Okay.
A situation like that, they're gonna line up. Jeep
All
on the
right.
property.
Tabled.
You know that.
Table. Thank you, Josh. Okay, I'd like to recommend the appointment of Ryan Lynch to the bar to fill an open seat to be determined. And Chris, I think you wanted to present some ideas.
Yeah, I mean, it's on the resolution. I think you put down there. Didn't you?
No, I don't think it's on this particular copy.
Oh,
If
okay.
you're looking at the,
So, I mean, should we vote to appoint him first and then we can just
Well,
add?
it's up to you. Did you want to?
Oh, no, I had a great conversation
That
with him.
first, and then we'll go over the strategy.
Yeah.
Okay, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees appoint Ryan Lynch to the bar to fill the open seat of to be determined. May I have a second?
second,
All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Okay. Do you want to take the time now to?
Yeah,
review
sure.
that?
Thanks, Mayor. So, and going through talking to Ryan about his seat on the board and previous appointments from the mayor, I've always enjoyed those conversations, and I learn a lot about the board, and it's nice to dive into what they're thinking, have the opportunity to share what I think and the vision of the board should be, and make sure that they align. And and specifically talking to Ryan, he talked to almost every member of the bar, and then he talked to me. I don't know how many of you he talked to, but I was like, man, that's a lot of people to talk to. A lot of times you have to repeat yourself. So in other organizations I've been a part of, you've been presented in front of a committee or a board. And all I'm suggesting here is that when the mayor has a candidate to present for our approval, that we have a formal meeting. I think there's a lot of benefits to that. We would get to hear each other's questions, think about things that we wouldn't have thought of before, get to ask for clarification if it's a candidate sitting there, get commitments from the candidate for things that we think are important for the planning board, bar, whatnot, and then vote. And then that way the candidate kind of senses the seriousness of this 5-year term that we're approving that candidate for. And, and we're all a bit wiser on what their talents, their proclivities are, their ability to talk in front of a group. And so
we've never interviewed a candidate before in the public domain.
it wouldn't be in public.
It would be an executive session.
Yep, or a closed meeting.
Would that be acceptable in executive session to interview a bar applicant?
If you're discussing the specifics of either a person or an entity,
Mhm.
that, normally you
Okay.
can discuss in public, you can be in executive session.
Right. So, and your purpose would be so that it's a one-shot deal.
Yes,
It's more efficient.
yes.
Okay.
And more knowledge spread amongst
Right.
all of us whose
Right.
responsibility it is to
Mhm.
vote to
Mhm.
approve your appointments. And I say that, I don't know if I said this at the beginning, the mayor's always brought great candidates to us. I just think that we can make it a little bit more formal.
Sure. And the reason that it has been less formal is because we were able to avoid a meeting.
Yeah.
Right. So that, in other words, if there's more than 2 trustees, you have to have
Yeah.
an actual meeting. So because the timing of it sometimes is in between, that's the way we've typically done it, but I have no problem doing that. I think we should take your ideas. I know you wrote them.
Yeah, they're in email.
And I think we should share them with John as well, get his input, and the boards as well, the appointed boards, the bar and other, if they like that idea, maybe they also want to do a one group meeting.
Maybe, but I think this is our decision,
Right.
and I'm less concerned.
Mhm.
And this is going to sound bad. I'm less concerned about the boards who we appoint them to as
Mhm.
opinion than our own.
Mhm.
So, I mean, we write the reorg.
Right. Well, I like the
agenda.
idea. How do you guys feel?
Yeah, no, I agree.
Josh?
I like the idea.
Okay.
I'm also good like getting input from the other boards, but Chris, I think what you suggest makes a lot of sense.
Yep. Paul, do you have any comments?
No, I think it's a good idea.
Okay, good. So let's try and work through it and vote on it at the next meeting.
I think my proposal would be that we just incorporate in the reorg agenda
reorg,
as a
good idea.
process for board.
Good idea.
board appointments.
Very good idea.
And now we've had a discussion about it, so we
Yep.
can just kind of kick some drafts around.
That's a great idea. Okay, if you want to refine it any further, let us know. Or if any trustees would like to work with Chris and refine it further, let's do that and we'll put it in the reorg. Good idea. Okay. So did we vote on Ryan? Yes, I think we did. Okay, let's move on to the resolution to hire AJ, who is now employed by GEI as our Lakes Manager. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees hire GEI as Lakes Manager. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Excuse me, any discussion?
Do we have a draft agreement with them?
It's not it's actually it's a negotiated agreement, Chris. Hopefully it's been shared with you, but we worked with Brian to ensure that from a legal perspective, it made sense. I'm happy to provide a summary if that's helpful.
I guess my question, but I always ask if, legal has
Yep.
reviewed it. And then price wise and scope of work wise,
So
is it much different than the previous one?
No, it's very
Okay.
similar. I mean, I'm happy to go through it. They're actually going to do 2 aquatic surveys this year just because, we had the issue with the milfoil. And so they want to do a survey at the beginning of the season and then towards the end of the year as well. So there's actually going to be 2 surveys this year. Normally we would just have one. But the services also include a consulting budget so that, you know, we can receive lake management consulting advice throughout the season as needed. And then, you know, the total cost is laid out in, as you would expect in the agreement as well. The total fees are just over 30,000 with expenses of just over 10,000 for a total cost of around 41,000.
And
that's project management, that's water quality monitoring, aquatic plant surveys, consulting. They'll provide us a memo at the end of the year. And then also a stakeholder meeting.
Josh, so the total bill though, there, you know, the hourly consulting, that's billed as an upset basis. In other words, if we're approving as a board the money, but it may not cost us that much by the end of the season.
That is correct.
Okay. I know Jim's very happy with the choice to continue working with AJ. I might as well take this moment to tell the public that at this point in time, based on the last inspection, I think you alluded to this earlier, we don't foresee doing milfoil treatment this year. Is that correct?
That's my expectation based on my conversations with AJ, but we'll know for sure later this week.
When he comes down.
Correct.
And while we have permits for that, we may forego that until next season, correct?
Correct. And may not even need it
next
following season.
Right.
Correct.
And I think, this I think is, I'm satisfied with this because they tried to get us to pay one lump sum and guarantee all 3 years. And I was able to negotiate with them, let's break it down by yearly. And just for this purpose, so that if we didn't feel like we had to do it, we weren't locked in. Thank you. Okay.
And then how much do we budget for lakes management? I know it was in the budget, Tinka, do you remember?
I don't remember offhand. I know part of it was, I don't know, because it's in two different places, right? In the
I would
water
recommend,
department and in
Do you think,
I would recommend that we take, if there is a needed amount of money to reallocate from the budget, we have a substantial amount of money available to us in the water fund.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And that would be the likely place to take it. I'll leave that to Elizabeth, our treasurer, to recommend.
Yep.
But I'm not concerned about
I
that.
agree. Well, I know there's.
From the reserve fund. Okay, so I'll just read it again. Resolution to hire a GEI as Lakes Manager. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay,
Can I ask a question?
please, Jim.
I'm just wondering if in his second survey, if you find there are a fair amount of milfoil that's growing, or even a small amount,
Right.
is there money to pull that to get ahead of it?
Well, Jim, I think we haven't allocated pulling, but we certainly could discuss it and pull it out of the water fund.
Okay,
And
all right.
yeah,
And
and
I
Jim,
think-
my expectation based on my conversation with AJ is that it should not be a significant amount of money if we do indeed have to pull, given the containment.
Yeah, so yeah, the answer is yes, Jim. I mean, if we're not going to do the milfoil, maybe there's little spots here and there, we could certainly discuss it at that time.
Right.
We'll wait, we get AJ's report. All right, moving on. Okay, now the summer camp from the town is going to be,
You approved the dumpster, right?
yeah, I was going to get back to that. So let me do that now. There's a resolution to approve a WeWat Park dumpster. John, do you want to describe what that is?
Yes, apparently there were some complaints regarding the brightly colored or aluminum garbage pails in the park. So it was agreed we would remove the pails and put a small green dumpster near the entrance to the park.
Right.
And that was done about 2 weeks ago.
And we removed the garbage cans.
And the garbage pails have been removed.
And that actually works much better because we have a carry in, carry out policy, and it's much more practical for the DPW to not have to go around and collect the cans. And this is collected every Monday by Waste Management? Okay, terrific. And the cost was? Small.
Yeah, let me see if I could.
I think it was less than $1 million, right? Actually, it's not,
Yeah, they
but we're gonna
didn't-
try and make it.
They didn't have.
They don't have that. So we're thinking we could drill something and have the DPW do something in that regard. Not bear proof.
Oh, bear proof.
Yeah,
Right, dumpsters, it's just not that expensive. You don't have to spend time looking for it.
right. All right, so let's move on. All right, so be it resolved, the Board of Trustees approved the Weewa Park dumpster rental for the summer season. I may have a second.
Second
All in favor?
Quick discussion.
discussion.
Can I just ask that when we go in front of the bar or planning board for the parking lot discussion, we get some screening for a dumpster? I just have a pet peeve with dumpsters just hanging out there.
That might be something the DPW can do.
Yeah,
I'm sure they can,
Right,
you know,
right,
but just
yeah, no, I think
something,
it's a great idea.
something creative that kind
Yeah.
of hides it
Great
and
idea.
makes the park look nicer.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I certainly agree with that. Okay. Now, the next one is to discuss the agreement between the town and the WeWa. And it's fait accompli. We're doing it. I believe it's already been signed. So this is essentially an intermunicipality agreement allowing the town to use the WeWa for summer camp purposes under the same conditions they did last year. And Brian, I believe you've reviewed that. Thank you. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees approve the intermunicipal agreement with the town for the use of the Weewa Park by the town of Tuxedo Summer Camp. May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now we're going to actually do a resolution to award the stone wall repair. You had said HC
Landscaping.
Landscaping?
Yes.
Okay. And what is their price again? And where are we going to take the money? Do we know?
I do not know.
DPW,
From the DPW?
yeah. yeah.
Okay. Elizabeth, that's
Trying to
something
think
that
where-
we'd
which
like to
one
have your
that
advice
is,
on.
Yeah.
Okay, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees award the Stonewall repair to bidder HC Landscaping. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, resolution authorizing payment to Arnold Construction Company, CBGD resolution. Do we have a written resolution for that? Provided by Joe?
No,
Okay,
well, he just said that they completed the work.
okay. Do we want to discuss that, John?
It's just a
Explain what that is?
This is one project, I'm sorry.
It's
It's
the,
for the Arnold, authorizing a payment to Arnold Construction Company.
our,
Yeah, Harold Construction.
Harold.
Arnold.
They submitted the last payment request.
Right.
1,000?
Yeah, exactly. It's a very large amount, so I thought the board should be aware of it.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees approve payment to Arnold Construction Company, CDGBG resolution.
That's the second one. I'm sorry. That was a little typo there. So it's just Harold Construction Company. That's the end of it.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry about that.
Okay, no problem. Helps me with my dyslexia. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees authorize payment to Arnold Construction Company. May I have a second?
second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Oh, I just want to say,
Sure.
doesn't that come from the EFC?
It
It comes from the EFC,
Oh,
so
good,
it's
thank you.
not going to be coming from the budget, like it's a large amount, but it won't be.
It
coming
was the grant and loan.
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. We're gonna, this resolution is to continue roll over the policy from travelers. That
We
we,
read the CDBG resolution.
oh, so you're saying
It's
that,
a resolution.
okay, and it, so there's no number for it.
Exactly. it should be
Okay.
K.
All right, why don't you read that resolution?
Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees authorize the signing of the CDBG resolution.
Okay, and do we have a copy?
Yeah.
Hey, Brian, have you seen this? Are you familiar with this CDBG? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You meet all the requirements for that. In reading it, it's talking about
I recall
sexual
you
harassment
mentioned we've done it in the
policies and
past.
training,
Yes.
preventing
And that's
people
what they're saying.
Yeah.
from access to civil rights protests.
I
Or,
mean, it is a board,
Okay.
All
all right.
Because it was actually a while ago. The sexual harassment policy
This is the resolution I'm supposed to read.
is supposed to be.
Yeah.
Would you check that with
Yes, the
Brian?
agreement he's signing.
Ask Brian if that's the resolution I'm supposed to read, please.
Really
Thank
nothing
you.
new. Okay.
She's going to ask you if that's the resolution we're supposed to read.
This is the resolution, but you don't have to read.
Okay.
You don't have to read any of it, it's before the board, but this one is
Okay. All right.
5 or 6 pages.
Yeah.
20 paragraphs.
Okay. And you've looked over it, so I won't read that. I'll just,
The board has it, you would just basically adopt the resolution. That's
We do.
the Board, Elizabeth did
Yep.
it out.
mhm. Okay. So I lost my agenda. Here it is. Thank you. Oh, yep. Thank you, Paul.
You,
Be it resolved, the Board of Trustees approves the signing of the CDGB resolution. May I have a second?
second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Resolution to approve the continuation of the insurance policy with travelers letting it roll over. Be it resolved, the Board of Trustees approve the continuation of the village insurance policy with travelers. May I have a second?
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Discuss the process to fill the boards, et cetera. We've done that, right, Chris? So we're good to-
We're done.
good to, we're deciding to put it into, when it's final, you'll give it to me, we'll put it into the annual reorg meeting. Okay, now, this is for approval of a small bill where a vendor went and helped clear the trails. This money would come from the private donations made to the Trail Committee. And we are required by law to approve those expenditures. So I will call that out, and then if there's discussion, we can have that. Resolved to pay vendor for work done on behalf of the Trails Committee. Line item for such funds shall be from the private donations made to the Trail Committee. May I have a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? I think it's several $1,000s, right? We have the value.
It's $2,177.50. And the work that's been done was on East Valley Trail and also Fox Trail, and they desperately needed it. So
Thank you very much.
you're
Just
welcome.
for the record, that money that's over the 2,000 is tax, so I will give them a tax exemption certificate. so
Okay.
they'll just be paying it.
All right, thank you very much, Elizabeth. Okay, may I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on to old business, New York class. A resolution to invest the funds. I think the board is going to have a discussion about how much we want to invest. I did ask them to provide a resolution for us, municipal corporate resolution. I'd like to hand that to Brian to review while I use the men's room.
I mean, the least crucial road is the Serpentine, right? Because it has such little traffic. We need to cut that out.
But I think we agree, maybe the section of Serpentine near Lookout is pretty
It's
bad.
bad, yeah.
Let's look at the
Yeah,
budget.
we'll-
It's just so early in the process. We can
Yeah.
pull from anywhere, but we don't know what it's gonna look like.
I did, a couple of months ago, where we could pull from
Yeah.
other things, so,
Mhm.
so,
No, we could figure it out within an hour.
yeah. I would hope less than that.
I do too.
Can't explain why he would be doing that, since we have BRI. Does he need that for the weekends? It's not an
lot of money, but.
No, I know. I don't know if it's, I don't
set,
know,
Brian?
I don't know if it's a requirement.
It's resolution, but a reference to the agreement, so we need to authorize. someone
The
to
agreement as well.
the agreement as well.
All right, so do we have the agreement as well? Okay, so this entire, actually, it seems to me that this entire folder has to be authorized. Registration packet. All right, so I'll open the floor to discussions on what we feel we should invest. I'd like Josh to lead that discussion.
Sure. I mean, I think my perspective is they've set this up so that you're able to invest almost all of your funds. Transfers are without fees, and my understanding is you can make multiple transfers in any given day. So, you know, I don't know exactly, you know, what Elizabeth you're going to be comfortable with as having some minimum amount, but I would think we can invest almost all of it with New York Class.
And would you retain some of it with Chase, or what would you?
I mean, I think Chase probably has some minimum amount. I think there's benefit to us maintaining some de minimis amount, but you know, I don't know how much we have. I know it's several million. It declines over time during, as you know, as we get through the fiscal year. But you know, I would maintain some de minimis amount, maybe 25, 50,000. I don't think it needs to be a significant amount.
Paul, do you have any comments?
No, I would concur. I mean, I guess,
Okay.
you know, I don't know what the minimum amount is to keep the Chase relationship going, but I think 25 or 50 is.
Chris, I know you had wondered about, you know, whether we should do the full amount or not,
Well,
et cetera.
So everybody knows I don't agree with the full amount. I think we should diversify our deposits. And in the draft
I'm sorry,
investment,
I didn't.
diversify our deposits.
Okay.
In our draft investment policy, which we haven't discussed yet, but is pretty much a cookie cutter from the comptroller's website, it does say that our policy is to diversify deposits and investments by financial institution, investment instrument, and maturity scheduling. And I think if we put the majority of our money in New York Class, that we're not living up to our policy. And that us as the governing board shall establish appropriate limits for the amount of investments which can be made with each financial institution or dealer. And we do that by setting a limit that Elizabeth as a treasurer would be able to set.
Now,
So
a question. Oh, please.
yeah, so I just think that, you know, we should discuss how we invested the money in New York Class, still meet the intent of our draft policy, or are we just going to throw the draft?
Well, I guess we have a couple of questions. Brian, you said that we currently have a investment policy from before in our village that with the boards has passed. Right. However, it needs to be updated, you said.
Yes.
Correct? And have you provided us with an updated version?
I have.
Okay. And Elizabeth, do you have that, or
Yes.
Chris, do you have that?
Yeah, it's posted on the website
Okay, good.
for tonight's meeting.
Good. And so, Brian, you recommend we pass this first?
You should, yes.
Yes, okay.
To go to the New York.
And Chris, does this version include all of the items you just mentioned?
So we have to name the name of the depository, the maximum amount, and then the officer, which I believe would be
Right.
Elizabeth. And then we also have to decide how we're securing our deposits. So what I believe, and there's 5 choices, and we're supposed to omit the ones that we're not going to use. And I think we only use the first one right now, which is eligible securities. So what that's saying is every month we should be getting a collateralized statement from Chase, and it should say above the $250,000 that we have insurance for, there should be stocks or securities in our name. So if we can't get our money from Chase, they go under, all those stocks become ours. And that's how they collateralize the money above $250,000. And that's my other issue with New York Class. I just don't know how they collateralize for us. But I'm willing to go on faith that they have a way. I just don't know it yet. Otherwise, nobody else would be doing it.
You guys know the answer to that question?
I know we asked, we didn't get
Josh, you
a
have
very
any
clear
response there?
answer, yeah.
I don't know.
Okay,
Yeah,
so,
I'm surprised that they would collateralize it. I mean, it's a diversified portfolio because they have,
Right.
right,
That's
so
the
I
thing.
think there's
So-
adequate diversification. But I know of no institution that personally guarantees amounts above the 250.
It's collateralized.
another question I have, if the comptroller feels that we should divest our investments,
Mhm.
what would those choices be? Because I know our choices are limited.
So, one of the criteria is maturity scheduling. So,
Mhm.
and one of the allowable investments would be a CD. So you could take $1 million and put it in a 6-month CD,
Right.
fixed
And what are
interest
those
rate.
rates?
I don't know. I
Yeah,
haven't
but
looked
that
at
would be not diversified.
Well, that's one. That's $1 million out of the 3.5. How much are we talking about right now?
Well, it might be diversified.
I
but there's
mean,
better.
haven't we had this discussion before? Now we're talking about the trustees becoming portfolio managers.
Well, okay, but right now we haven't had any independent, well, we've had people come in front of us, a former CFO and board member, Alan. We've had Claudio give his opinion, but we're going to New York class based on a salesman's pitch to us.
Oh, no, that wasn't.
We haven't,
No, I asked the accountant, what are municipalities doing
Yeah.
in order to not get. And he is the one who said most municipalities are going with New York class. So
Okay.
that's where we got it, from, not just the fact. I mean,
And we did our diligence, right? We spoke with the town of Tuxedo, we spoke with the town of Monroe. I mean, I feel like this has been an extensive conversation, and every time we push this out, we're foregoing quite a significant amount of potential interest income.
Yeah, let me make a motion that we put 90% of our assets in this and the ability to adjust that as we get greater clarity on policy.
Second,
So hold on. The problem with that, Paul, is 90% is going to change, right? Let's just use a number. We start at 3 million and we work our way through that money over the years. So is it 90% at all times? I think the right way to frame this is some minimum amount that we'll just keep with Chase and just make that a fixed amount. I don't care if it's 25, 50, 200, Chris, if that makes you feel more comfortable. I think that rather than percentages, because otherwise we're going to be doing math every meeting.
Okay, I agree with you. So let's make it, you have a preference 50 grand with Chase?
well, we have different funds, so you have to specify per fund, right?
general fund.
Yeah, we have general fund, we have
Water
water
fund.
fund, we have, and
Sewer.
then we have capital fund, and we have,
We should have as many funds as we have departments for budgeting purposes. And also each fund has different liquidity levels. We obviously need more money on a monthly basis in the general fund to pay general bills and less money from the water department because it's just a different liquidity.
But again, you have access to these funds. It's
Right,
not that you don't
absolutely.
have access to the funds.
Mhm.
right. Yeah, I'm just saying that you can't just say a blanket 200,000 because I think you need to have per fund a certain amount that you're gonna keep with Chase. So that's,
The Chase account is not segregated by fund. It is, we have 50 different accounts.
We have a couple different checking accounts. We have a general fund, which is much of what you,
we have
Besides
a
that, we have
checking and
water.
a savings per fund. So if you have general, then you have 2 accounts, and then the water, you have 2 accounts. And then
sewer.
you have the payroll ones, 2 different accounts, right, that the payroll comes from. So we have more than just one. So,
Then what you're saying is, do we need 20 grand per, I don't know how many funds we have, but taking Josh's comment of 20 grand per fund and the residual.
I mean, I think it's a good starting point. You start at 25 at least, and then if you decide that that's not what you want, then
Can I? Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, I think yes. Okay. This is very frustrating to me because I feel like we're kind of making this up on the fly as we're going through it. But I'm trying to figure out how to, I feel like a conversation, I don't know. It's a little frustrating that we're continuing to talk about whether or not this money should be invested in New York class. So we have, it sounds, how many separate bank accounts do we have with
So-
Chase?
7 or 8, I think. I forget.
General, water, sewer, capital improvements. I don't view payroll as an account. It's just a wash through. It just
Okay.
money goes in, money
It's
goes
an
out.
account though,
But we're not investing payroll.
right, I guess.
Okay,
He has so
we're
many
also not
accounts.
investing capital, we're also not investing the escrow money for projects. There might be a couple $100,000 there that we shouldn't invest because if we
Or
make,
donations.
if we make money on it, then we're probably forced to give that money to the people whose money we have, and it's going to become much more complicated than you can imagine. So essentially, there's the general, water, sewer, and capital improvements. Four.
Josh, I understand your frustration. Why don't you?
No, would the trustees be comfortable figuring out the right amount for each of these accounts and the right amount to be invested to some subgroup? I don't really care who it is. I'm happy to be involved. You know, Tinka, Elizabeth, John, and just get it implemented.
Right.
Yes.
So how would we then go about structuring the resolution? Brian, do you have any suggestions?
Not about the things you're talking about. There's an agreement, there's a resolution, a designated contact. So the agreement says what it says as far as these fill in the blanks. It's your depositories, not your bank accounts that you need, and then the other information that Trustee Casco mentioned.
Right. I actually proposed that Josh be the
Right, I saw that.
contact. I think that we should determine how much we're going to put in. Do we know how much extra cash we have if we leave 25,000 in the others
45,000 in the other bank.
in the bank account?
In each of the bank accounts.
Right.
You mentioned 4 bank accounts. That
Right.
sounds like $100,000.
That's $100,000 we're going to not touch.
And everything above that goes into.
Right, and everything above that goes into New York Fund.
That's a print monthly cash. thing. I think
So
it's
could we just
online.
state that, Brian? Because it goes up and down all the time, or do we have to pick a specific number?
I mean, if you don't, unless you can describe it accurately, if you're saying all funds other than these 4 accounts, or it sounds like there was escrow also counted. Would be,
I would suggest not including it because it's going to create
Right.
interest.
so,
Nightmare.
I mean, what I'm struggling with a little bit is we're voting to, I would think, invest funds in New York class. The question is how much, but what I'm struggling with a little bit is we're eliminating, it feels like we're eliminating any flexibility to be nimble here.
Right.
And
That would be a mistake.
that's what I'm fearful of. I mean, what if we go through this vote tonight, right? And then we say 25, 25, 25, and the rest goes to New York class. Do we have, again, can we designate, and again, I don't care who it is, whether it's a combination of Tinka, Elizabeth, and John, I'm happy to be involved to figure out what the right answer is and give those people the authority to move forward.
Right. So do you
prove?
Right. Do you have a
prove these-
resolution that you'd like to suggest to get this moving forward? And then I guess we could also pass the investment policy.
I'm getting the impression that nobody else has read the investment policy.
Yeah, I'm,
So I probably don't think we should move forward on
yeah,
that.
I think we should look at the investment policy at the next.
I agree with that.
To do.
Yeah.
What we do here is we instruct a committee, which is, folks you've named, including yourself, to establish a commitment into the Chase accounts and the resid goes into New York Class 1. And they can report back to us on what their decision is. at the
Yeah,
next meeting.
that works for me.
I think that's a good resolution.
Okay. All right. So, Brian, would you like to craft that resolution for us? Or would you like me to do it?
I think you better do it.
Okay, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees assign a committee made up of Tinka, John, Elizabeth, and Josh to make recommendations to us as to what we should invest in New York class and have the authority to move forward forthwith with the investment so we can take advantage of the higher interest rates that we know we will get by switching from Chase to New York class. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
I,
Aye. Okay, terrific. And then we'll back into this. All right, good. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry for the frustration, Jay.
you have to.
Sure.
your class, right?
No, I think that we have to just fill this out.
No, but don't we have to do something, Brian, about New York class, stating something that we're adopting this or
The
something?
resolution for the intermunicipal cooperation.
All right, so we have the municipal cooperation resolution. You want us to pass that?
After to enter the agreement, if that's what you guys are gonna do, yes.
Yeah, okay, great, thank you. This is the municipal cooperation agreement resolution. Whereas New York General Municipal Law, Article 5G, Section 19 0, Section 19-0 empowers municipal corporations defined in Article 5G, Section 119-N to include school districts, boards of cooperation, educational services, counties, cities, towns, and villages, and districts to enter into, amend, cancel, and terminate agreements for the performance among themselves or one for the other of their respective functions, powers, and duties on a cooperative or contract basis. Whereas the Village of Tuxedo Park wishes to invest portions of its available investment funds in cooperation with other corporations and or districts pursuant to the New York City Class Municipal Cooperation Agreement, amended and restated as of March 28, 2019. Whereas the Village of Tuxedo Park wishes to satisfy the safety and liquidity needs of their funds. Now, therefore, it is hereby resolved that Trustee Joshua Shear of the Village of Tuxedo Park is hereby authorized to participate in the New York Class Program under the terms of the New York Class Municipal Cooperation Agreement, amended and restated as of March 28th, 2019. May I have a second?
Second,
All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Okay. Fund registration. Just let me double check. There's no other agreements.
Claims budget.
Looks like we've covered it. Okay. Shall we move on?
Yeah.
Elizabeth, any audit of claims this evening?
Yes, for water fund, $16,863.66. For the sewer fund, $2,967.64. And for the general fund, $108,783.60.
Okay, would you like me to sign those?
Yes, please.
Okay. And while I'm doing that, you can address the budget transfers if there are any. Okay, there are none this evening. Okay. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees enter executive session to discuss certain village employees, hiring of a new DPW employee, negotiation of a DPW contract, and a water utility collection matter. May I have a second?
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, let's shut down the meeting. Thank you, everyone. We'll be back after this. I would anticipate about 20 minutes to a half hour max. Appreciate that. If you stick around, thank you. Otherwise, we'll wish you a happy evening. All right, so the tape is